boys and girls, and welcome to Growing in God's Story. When we listen to the stories that God has given us in our special book called the Bible, we have to use our whole bodies to listen. We have to listen with our ears. We have to watch with our eyes. We have to keep our lips quiet, and we especially need to listen with our hearts. Anytime I bring you one of God's stories, I will always invite Jesus to be with us. He promised us that whenever we gathered in his name, he would be right here with us. And so to remind us that he's with us, I will always light a candle because we know that Jesus was the light of the world. You'll know that I'm ready to start telling you one of the stories and God's words when you hear this bell. So let's get our bodies ready to hear God's story. I wonder what this could be. It's very bumpy and sandy. Got a lot of dirt on it. Yeah, it could be a pathway or a road. There were many roads in Jesus' stories because he traveled from one place to another. I wonder where this road might lead. I wonder what place this could be. Red reminds me of someone important that might be coming down the red carpet. Sometimes it even reminds me of Jesus' blood on the cross. This time though, I'm going to put this on it. I wonder whose house this could be. Could be someone who lives in this house out in the country, or maybe in a little town. Oh, it could be a cottage too. That could be. A shed where you keep your tools. That could be. I'm sure you have lots of ideas. Oh boy. I have another place. Wow, this looks like a bigger place. It does look like a cabin, doesn't it? Could be someplace out in the woods. Or maybe again, it's some kind of a house that someone lives in, or a shed where we keep things. Oh, this is interesting. Look at that. It's got all these railings all the way around it. Yeah, it looks like a boxing ring. Could be. Or some kind of a pen. Maybe a pen that you keep some animals in, maybe cows, or maybe chickens, or maybe horses. I think some kind of animals might be in there. And I think I found them. Here they are, and they look very hungry. They're little pigs. Pigs are messy. They make a lot of messes in their pen. And they're very hungry too. They eat out of troughs. We're going to keep
those pigs right in that pen. I wonder what they have to do with this story. Well, boys and girls, I think that this is all I need to start my story.
As Jesus was traveling along the Sea of Galilee and beside some of the hillside, people were gathering to listen to him. And when he looked at them, he could see that some of them seemed like they were sheep without a shepherd. He could also see that some of them were not living the way God wanted them to live. And someone said to him, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am like a father who has two sons, an older son and a younger son. One day, the younger son went to his father and said, 'Father, I do not want to stay and work on this farm anymore. I want to go out into the world and have a good time. I want to have my inheritance, so please give it to me right now.' An inheritance is something that usually a mom or a dad or a grandma and grandpa would leave their children after they die. You'd never ask for your inheritance before they die. The father was a little sad, but he decided to give the younger son his inheritance. The younger son loaded everything he had onto his donkey, brought his clothes, brought his inheritance, and he said goodbye to his father, to his father's servants, and to his brother. They had no idea when they'd ever see him again. And he left on his journey. He traveled a long ways. And soon he came to a country he had never been in before. It was much different than where he lived. Soon, some people realized that he had lots of money to spend. He would spend it on parties, on fancy clothes, on jewelry, on buying gifts for his friends. But in a little while, all the money was gone. And there was a terrible famine that happened, and there wasn't enough to eat. The crops were dying, and people didn't have food. And before long, his friends disappeared. Soon the younger son had to sell everything, even his donkey, just to get enough food to eat. And when that was all gone, he didn't know what he was going to do. He was left in rags. He decided to go to a farmer. And he said to the farmer, "Would you please let me work for you to take care of your pigs?" The farmer said, "Well,
I don't have any money to pay you. I barely have enough to feed my own family. But if you want to take care of the pigs, you can live with them and you can eat the pig slop that they eat. That's all I can give you. The son was desperate, and so he took care of the pigs and he lived with the pigs. And he stayed there for a long, long time. He had a long time to think about what had happened. He started thinking about his father's wonderful home, about the servants who probably had a better place to live and more food than he did. And he wondered whether his father would let him come home and be one of his servants, for surely he wouldn't let him be his son anymore. So he made the decision to make the long journey back home after being away for a long, long time. As he came up the path to his father's home, his father came out of his house and saw somebody coming down the pathway. At first he didn't recognize him, but all of a sudden he realized that it was his lost son. He started running towards him with his arms out, and before his son could say, "I'm sorry, Father," the father hugged him and said, son, you've returned. You were lost and now you're found." And he turned to his servants and says, "Bring him some clothes to wear and bring him a ring for his finger and prepare a great feast, for the son who was lost is now found." And that is what they did. They brought him some new clothes and some jewelry for him to wear. And they brought him to his father's house. And there they prepared a great feast for him. There was dancing and there was singing and lots of food to eat. And all the neighbors came to celebrate. But that wasn't the end of the story. The older son was out in the fields working. He could hear all the commotion going on at his father's house. And he said to one of the servants, "What's going on?" The servant said, "Oh, didn't you hear? Your father has had a great feast for your brother who has come home. They are celebrating." The older son was furious. His father came to see him. And he said, "Son, come. You must come to the house and celebrate, for your brother who has been lost is now found." The older son said, "Why should I celebrate? He squandered all of your inheritance to him. He wasted everything and he's been gone for a long, long time. I've been here working on your farm all this time." But the father said, "Son, you have been with me always. You've had whatever I have. Surely you will come and celebrate." And this, boys and girls, is the parable of the lost son.